Hello. Buenas noches, buenas tardes. Hello there. Muchas gracias por tomar este tiempo de su vida muy complicada para estar con nosotros esta noche. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and lives to come out to be with us tonight. This is the District 6 Charter Mandated Meeting. My name is Eva Torres. I am your District 6 Manager. Thank you. To my right here, I have Deputy District Manager Antonio Mora Mills. And somewhere around here is Nina Peña, who is our District 6 Vista way back there in the back. Welcome to St. Stephen's AME Church. I'm going to pass the mic on to the pastor, Darrell Williams, who's going to give you guys some rules, and then he's going to introduce the mayor, and we'll get on with the night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, and welcome you to St. Stephen, African Methodist Episcopal Church. Well, let me just first say it's obvious that we're in God's house. And because we're in God's house, we want to respect God's house. And so I have a zero tolerance for disrespecting God's house with vulgarity and disrespecting someone irrespective of their opinion. So we're going to respect each other's opinion. People came here to have their questions answered. And we want to make sure they have an opportunity to do that. And so I'm going to ask that you respect those rules. I will warn you once, and then after that, I reserve the right to use any of these big guys sitting in the middle to have you removed. And I certainly don't want to do that. And so we want to have a good time tonight. There's a lot of information to be given, and people came here to have their questions answered, and we certainly want that to happen tonight. So again, welcome to St. Stephen AME Church. I'm also going to ask you to turn off your cell phones. If you do that. All right, and then after I have a word of prayer, then I'm going to turn it over to our mayor. Let us pray. Our God and our Father, we thank you for this day that you have made. We rejoice and we're glad in it. For the blessings of this day, we give you thanks that started early this morning into this present moment. Now we ask you to bless us with your favor as we gather together to discuss how we can improve this great city called Detroit, Michigan. And so we ask for your strength and your favor upon the mayor and every department that they may carry on the work, and every resident. It's in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit that we ask this prayer. Amen. This time I'll turn it over to the mayor of the city of Detroit, Mike Duggan. Let's give him a great big hand.
Thank you so much, Pastor Williams, and thank you for being out a week before Christmas. When I was running for office and I would come to Southwest Detroit, I would always hear, "We've been forgotten. Nobody thinks about Southwest. We don't get our share of services." And I want to show you tonight what's happened in District 6 this last year and what we're proposing to do. But to start with, again, your district manager and your deputy district manager, if there's a problem in your neighborhood, it's their job to help you sort it out. Who's met Eva or Antonio before tonight? They doing a good job? All right, we're going to keep them. All right. You have a code inspector. Okay, Cesar DeArms, he's for District 6. So if there is a business that's not keeping its property clean, a neighbor who's not maintaining or parking their cars on the grass, whatever it is, one district inspector now will follow up. And if you have a business, we have a business manager who will help you develop that business. And so all of these people are dedicated entirely to District 6. This is, to me, the important question. What kind of a city are we building for our children? I really think that's how a city gets measured. And you remember what things were like in 2013, when all year long the parks were closed and the grass wasn't cut. And that was a message to our children as far as the importance the city placed on them. To me, it was always troubling when I'd go by this. And so we said, let's set a goal that says every child in this city should be able to walk or ride a bike to a first-class park in 10 minutes. Now, in 2013, that seemed far-fetched. I'm going to show you how much progress we're making, and within a few years, we're going to be there. We've improved 150 parks already. We're upgrading 60 more, and let me just show you what we've done in this area. This is Richardson Park, small neighborhood park in southwest Detroit, and here's how it looks today. Romanowski Park, many of you familiar with that one, and here's how it's improved today. Is it better? A lot better. All right, I'm glad the neighbors are happy. All right. Pewauk now has first-class courts with the Pistons. Part of our agreement when the Pistons came to Detroit, they're rebuilding basketball courts in parks all over the city. Scripps Park over on Grand River now looks like that. Sack Park, these were little neighborhood parks nobody cared about, now looks like that. This is what we're doing. Those little half-acre parks may not seem important to you, but to the neighbors who live around that area, they're really important to the quality of life. Riverside Park, right? Who wanted to be down there? Today, we've rebuilt it with the new basketball courts and with Michigan's biggest skateboarding park under the bridge on the river. And Clark Park at Verner is going to be redone with this kind of a beautiful entrance this summer. And so you can see in the next year that we'll have more improvements to Clark, to Patton, to Riverside, to Romanowski, to Tarnow, Kirkwood, and to Weigel. And we're just going to keep right on going. And the West Riverfront, how many have seen the plans for the West Riverfront just past where Joe Louis Arena is coming down? Here's what the Wilson Foundation is building. That's the Riverfront Park that's being built now. And you see that area where the water goes in? You're actually going to be able to wade from the beach into the river. You're not going to be able to go out and swim, but you'll be able to put your feet in. But that's what we're doing. We are making this riverfront in southwest Detroit beautiful, because the riverfront in southwest Detroit for my whole lifetime was a lot of industrial area. Now we're starting to reclaim it for this community. Nothing aggravated me more than watching the rec centers close in this city one after another. Somehow, when the city ran into financial trouble, we cut our children first. And so Kemeny, which if you're down in 48217, has always been a huge part of this community, was closed. We started with Kemeny and put in a new gym, new multi-purpose facility, new parking lot, and I'll show you. This is the new Kemeny Recreation Center we opened in the past year. Kind of activity rooms, gyms, it's the kind of facility you can be proud of. And then we said it's not enough to do the rec center, so we went to the outdoor park and rebuilt it to look like this. These are the kind of facilities our children deserve in Southwest. And so today we have 3 rec centers that we run, Kemeny, Patton, and Clemente, 2 that our partner communities run, but to me that wasn't enough. But it cost $10, $12 million to build a rec center. We weren't in a position to build a lot of rec centers, but we wanted to provide more services to the children in the summers. And that's when I realized that we got schools, and so we took Earhart and Burton schools. And last summer, we opened those schools for the summer. We put playground leaders in, and we fed the children 2 meals a day. A lot of these kids are only eating their meals at the school lunch program during the school year. What happens in the summer? We opened up the schools. We said that's still not enough. And then I realized that we've got churches in this city that have gyms. that are sitting empty, including one in this building. And we said, what would happen if the city paid for play leaders and put play leaders in Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, all summer long? If we put them in, gave some money to the churches to fix them up, and not only could the children play, but they could get connected to the youth ministries of these churches. And so we said, let's see if that'll work. And so we have picked 2 more churches, Central CME and St. Stephen, that will be partners this summer. So this summer, there will be 9 different recreation centers for the children to choose from. We've come a long way in activities in a short period of time. I don't know how many times I've talked to young people. Oh, I got some people happy with that. All right. I don't know how many times I've talked to young people, you say, what are you going to do? And they say, college isn't in my future. I can't afford it. And for people to have their dreams cut short at 8, 10, 12 years old didn't seem right. So we started something called the Detroit Promise. And the city of Detroit became the first major city in America that guarantees every single child who graduates from high school in Detroit has 2 years of community college tuition guaranteed. You know you've got that 2 years. And if you study hard, you get a 3.0 and a 20 on your ACT. You have 4 years at any one of 12 Michigan public universities guaranteed. You get accepted, we'll pay the tuition. A little bit of your property taxes every year goes into that scholarship fund. So if somebody in your life is 12 or 14 or 16 years old and they're going to high school in Detroit, that college tuition will be there for them. And today, we have 1,400 Detroiters attending college on the Detroit Promise Scholarship. Think about that, 1,400 futures being shaped right now from this program. And there's a lot of good careers that don't involve college. But when the emergency manager was in charge of the Detroit Public Schools, he basically eliminated the career technical programs. Anything having to do with carpentry and plumbing and culinary arts or auto mechanics, any of that was cut out. So we went and raised $20 million for Randolph, Brighthop, and Golightly. And basically, these high school students in Detroit go to their base high school for a half a day. They go to their career technical center for a half a day. 1,000 young people right now in high school are going to career technical centers and having the opportunity to pursue their own dreams. And this summer, more than 8,000 young people will have a summer job because of Grow Detroit's young talent. This is the kind of city we're trying to create. Lead has been an issue for children for a long time. And lead poisoning has come down since the 80s dramatically in Detroit and pretty much the rest of the country. And that has a lot to do with car and truck fuel, and the cleaner gasoline has a lot to do with it. We got rid of a lot of the old housing stock. Today, most of the elevated blood lead levels in Detroit come from peeling paint chips, usually around the window panes of these older houses. And so we wanted to go at this in a really intense way, and we approached the federal government, and HUD just awarded us $9.7 million to go into houses in southwest Detroit and remove the lead paint so that children can live in a lead-free environment. All right? Now, the Trump administration hasn't been a great help in general to us, but in this case, this $9.7 million grant was the largest grant to any city in the United States. And it is concentrated in the 48209 zip code in southwest Detroit. So it's going to be this area we're going to go into. And I'm sure it was coincidence that the HUD director, Dr. Ben Carson, grew up in District 6 and just came back and helped his hometown. Sometimes it's helpful to have a hometown connection. So in January, if you're in that zip code, we're going to be reaching out to you. And if you've got lead paint in your house, we're going to come in and abate it. And we're going to try to prove we can bring those elevated blood lead levels down even further by cleaning up those houses. We need more police, right? And so in 2014, our starting cops were making $29,000 a year. That was not at all fair. We have now moved up to $40,700 a year. It'll go up again in July. Still not as much as they're making in the suburbs, but we're moving in the right direction. Because if you weren't going to pay folks fairly, you weren't going to get the recruits or the quality of the recruits. And today, we've got 150 officers being trained in our academy who will be out on the streets in the coming months. But that's still not enough. So in January, the Detroit Police Department will be launching a police officer recruiting campaign. We are going to recruit officers from this city who know this city that look like this city. And I'll show you the beginning of it. It'll be TV, it'll be radio, it'll be social media, it'll be billboards on a theme of answering up to Detroit. We are going to pitch Detroiters to come out and be officers, and we're going to hire another 170 officers that we put on the street, and these are the kinds of billboards that you're going to be seeing as we pitch Detroiters to come join the police force. And every police commander would love to have an extra 12, 14 officers in their precinct to be able to be out on patrol, to be in the neighborhoods, and the like. Car insurance. Whose car insurance is too high? All right. It has been a 6-year fight. And I lost in Lansing in 2015. I lost in Lansing in 2017. In 2018, I sued the state of Michigan, which that lawsuit started to go really well with a federal judge, called the case shameful in the first hearing, and that shook them up. But this year, we got the law passed. And it goes into effect July 1st. So July 1st, everybody in this room that has a car insurance payment is going to see that payment come down. Many of you are going to see it come down hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's been people in this room who are going to see it come down $1,000 to $1,500. And here's what's going to happen. If you have health insurance now, you're on Medicare, you're on Blue Cross, you're on Health Alliance Plan, you're on Obamacare, any of that, you already have health insurance. If you were in any one of the other 49 states and you got in an accident, your health insurance would pay for your hospital. Your health insurance would pay for your rehab. The only state in America that said, even if you've got health insurance, you have to buy it a second time with your car insurance, is the state of Michigan. And the hospitals and the trial lawyers were ripping us off. On July 1st, it's going to change. Everybody's rates are going to come down. We've already seen 50% cuts in these catastrophic claims. That $220 that you're paying has already been cut in half. For most of you, it'll go away in July, but your base rates will come down. And so in March and April, I'm going to hold forums where we're going to show you bills and encourage you to bring your bills out. And if you got a good insurance agent, they'll take care of you anyway. You'll do just fine. But if you'd like to be knowledgeable of what your options are, the first time the law changed in 45 years, to deal with your insurance agent, we're going to hold sessions that I'll come out and do. And I'm telling you, there are people in this room who will save $1,000 to $1,500 in your car insurance if you make the right choices. So we're finally getting somewhere. I'm glad the governor got elected and got that done for us. And the people who supported it, it was Detroiters who fought for this. And down in Southwest Detroit, Representative Tyrone Carter and Senators Sylvia Santana, Stephanie Chang. The night of the vote, Stephanie Chang was homesick, got in her car and drove to Lansing to cast the vote to cut your car insurance rate. So this was something where the Detroit delegation stood up and fought for you. It matters who your legislators are. As you know, the Gordon Howe Bridge construction is underway. And if you are in Delray, you're well aware of this. So we made a deal with the Canadian government. City of Detroit owns some vacant land. The Canadian government was doing condemnation. They were taking private property, but there's a hole in the law. One government can't take another government's property. Detroit had a bunch of vacant lots. That'll surprise you, right? Right where they wanted to land the bridge. And I wouldn't sell it to them, which caused them to be a little bit angry they couldn't finish the project. We ended up making a deal with the help of your local advisory group that had more than $33 million. And what we did was this. If you live just outside the bridge area, we said you can move and we will renovate and build you a house in a different neighborhood. Or if you live just north of 75, where the overpasses are literally going to go over people's backyards. You're going to see, when they build these new overpasses at 75 there around Lafayette, you're going to have people who look up in their backyard and you're going to be able to see the trucks. That's a nice neighborhood, though. So we went in and said, if you want, we'll put in new roofs, we'll put in new air conditioning, we'll put in new windows. And so this is a vacant house in another part of Detroit. And there's a Del Rey family that moved into that same house. This is what we've done now almost 30 times, is people get to choose where they want to move, and we fix it up. And so these are the way the houses are looking, and these are families who are moving in. And on the inside, this is how we're renovating these houses. People are moving into really nice places. So instead of staring at a concrete bridge, they're in a neighborhood, and we fill in abandoned houses in other neighborhoods. So now the rest of the neighbors are embracing them. The neighborhoods are fighting over who gets the Del Rey families. So Morningside on the east side and Warrendale on the west side, they're going down to Del Rey and knocking on doors and saying, move in with us, because they know they have the city money to renovate the houses and move them. And if you live just north of 75, here's what we're doing. We're going in and retrofitting the house and putting a whole new air conditioning system in, putting in a better roof. We had one lady who said to me, I haven't had an asthma attack in 90 days since you put in this new system. And so this is the kind of thing you see, a whole new set of windows, and we're going to finish those up in the next year, but that's going very well. All of this is happening in Southwest Detroit, and that's the team that made it possible. Blight. We've got to get it out of this city. And I tried to pass a blight bond. City council didn't go along with it. That's not their fault, that's my fault. I got to have a good enough plan that they supported. And so I'm going to go back, and I'm talking to each of the council members, including Raquel Castaneda-Lopez, about what can we put in the plan so that we can do this. Because people can't continue to live next to these houses. So let me show you. I don't have to really tell you. I mean, this is the way it is. You'll have one block like this that looks really nice, and you turn your head the other direction, and that's what you see. And this is across the city. If we don't deal with this, it's going to spread to the nice blocks. We've got to get the blight out of here. And so we had a lot of success. When President Obama was there, I went to Washington, D.C. over and over, got $265 million in federal money for demolition. We've gotten down 20,000 abandoned houses. President Obama's not there anymore. Donald Trump's not offering us any demolition money. We're going to have to solve our own problems. But this is, every one of these dots is one of the 20,000 houses that we have taken down. And I didn't want the city to own the lots. What are we going to do with them? So we set up a program that said, if you own the house next door and we knock the house down, you want to buy the side lot, you can buy it for $100. More than 13,000 people have bought the side lot next to their house. The Detroiters who stayed when everybody else was leaving, they're getting to buy the lots. I don't know if you happen to come in Grand Boulevard, right around the corner as I came in here, I saw a side lot. If you see it, the Christmas tree is all lit up. They used the side lot to decorate a Christmas tree for the neighborhood. You got people putting in gardens, you got people putting in swing sets. It has really been great to see, because these are the kinds of things we're seeing with the side lots around the city. In addition to knocking houses down, though, we need to build our population. And the thing I'm probably proudest of is 9,000 vacant houses in this city 5 years ago have now been renovated and have a family in them. There's a lot of houses in this city that people walked away from that are in good shape. They could be saved. And this is what we want to do with the blight bonds. We want to knock down the burned out houses you can't save so that we can renovate the other ones so you can. And here's what's happened. With all these demolitions, it has all kinds of benefits. The number of fires in this city are cut in half. Our firefighters have been risking their lives for years going into abandoned houses. And when that happened, we were able to cancel Angels Night. So our kids aren't growing up anymore with images of all these flashing yellow lights. We had children in the city thinking that Halloween in my city was I had to be afraid that my house was going to burn down and people had to drive around with lights. We don't want the kids remembering that. So instead, last couple of years, they're going to the fire stations and the police stations, but they're going to get candy. And they're going to the rec centers to get candy. We brought Halloween in the D back. We aren't going to get anywhere if we don't stop the foreclosures from pushing people out. It doesn't do us any good to knock down a bunch of houses to get rid of the vacancies and then have a whole bunch more people leave the next year. You never gain, right? And so I couldn't believe it in 2015. Wayne County foreclosed on 9,000 occupied houses. They put 9,000 families out in 1 year. Said, this is appalling. We have to stop it. So we went at it hard. First, the emergency manager, if you were late in your water bill, put your water bill on the tax rolls. People could get foreclosed on for not paying their water bill. We stopped that. Said, you're not losing your house over a water bill. Second, we organized with all the neighbors, and UCHC, Ted Phillips, went out and knocked on doors and said, we've got help to keep you in your homes. And I went to Lansing and helped pass 5882 that said if you're behind in your taxes, the treasurer can give you a repayment plan over 5 years. And thousands of people came in and said, I want to stay in my home. They got in those plans. And so how have we done? Well, I told you, in 2015, 9,000 families were foreclosed on. The next year when the payment plan started, we cut it in half. That's way too many. Then we got down to under 2,000. Then 800. Last year, we got down to 500 families foreclosed on. We're down 94%, and that's still not enough. So we're going to go at it even harder. And so now, what we've done is we have a bill in Lansing called PAYS that Representative Wendell Byrd has sponsored, the county executive Warren Evans and I have pushed. And what PAYS says is, for all of those folks in those payment plans, most of them are paying like $125 a month. That's a real burden on a lot of folks. This will cut out all the interest, penalties, late charges. It'll take them from $125 a month to about $25 a month. And we got that bill through Committee 14-0. We just passed it through the entire House 106-1. It's now over to the Senate. I'm confident we're going to get passed in the early part of next year. So now we're going to give folks even more help. So if you know you don't have people moving out of their houses, we can start to plan to stabilize a neighborhood. So here was my idea. We got 20,000 houses down. We still got 18,000 to go. And the federal government's not sending any more money. So I said, let's go have the city sell $250 million in blight bonds, and we can get rid of every abandoned house in the city over 5 years. And here's what I thought. Had we tried to borrow money 3 or 4 years ago, people would have laughed at this. Detroit's bankrupt. Now, our credit ratings have done so well that we can actually borrow the money. And we can do it without your taxes going up. And here's why. Because we're running ahead of schedule on paying things off, your debt taxes would have been going down in future years. We can keep them the same level they are today, 9 mils. We can borrow the $250 million and your taxes won't go up. If anybody here has refinanced their house and maybe fixed their kitchen, but spread it out over more years so your payments stay the same, that's what we're proposing to do. We can get rid of those 18,000 houses and get that done. So here's what I thought was the big advantage of the blight bonds. Under the Obama administration, and I love them, they were great, but when the Fed sends you money, they send them with strings. And one of the things was they wouldn't let us renovate houses. So I went to Washington twice to meet with the Secretary of Treasury. And I sat in his office in D.C., and I said, this makes no sense. If it's going to cost us $20,000 to knock down a house, but we could renovate a house if we put $20,000 into it and move a family in, why don't we keep the house for the same amount of money? And I had 2 different Treasury secretaries say to me, that makes perfect sense, but we can't do it without going back to Congress, and we'll never be able to get the bill through Congress. So we boarded up those good houses to save them for another day. If we sell our own blight bonds, we can use the money for renovation. We can actually renovate houses, not just knock them down. And here's the interesting thing about District 6. In most of this city, you have far more demolitions than renovations. District 6 housing stock's actually in pretty good shape compared to the rest of the city. And so across the city, we need to knock down 18,000 and renovate 8,000. But in District 6, every one of those red dots is a burned out house that needs to be knocked down. There's about 1,300. But you have 1,100 that are in good shape, we've boarded up, we can rehab. What would District 6 be like if you had another 1,100 families in those houses and you had no more abandoned houses you were staring at? That was what I was trying to do. And so you say, okay, is that realistic? Can you really reuse those old houses and that vacant land? Because I want to reuse the land, let the neighbors plan what they do with those vacant lots. And so this is an area called Fitzgerald. It's over at Wyoming and 6 Mile. And we took this neighborhood and said, let's prove this. Let's prove that you could bring a neighborhood back. And so the Fitzgerald neighborhood, we had 87 vacant houses to renovate and 270 vacant lots that we were going to use. And we got with the neighbors, we came up with a plan, and we said, let's renovate those houses. So we start over here. That house can't be saved, right? It's got to be knocked down. Here's how it looks today. And this house on the next block, here's how it looks today. You know that house can't be saved, right? That's got to be knocked down. Here's how it looks today. When you go through a whole neighborhood together, you can save a whole lot of houses. We say, okay, but what about the vacant lots? Everybody's seen this, right? Look at those vacant lots down the middle. We said, how about we create a walking and bike path through the vacant lots? We had so many that you see that walking path there? That's all vacant lots. We're building that walking path right now through the neighborhood. You can reuse the vacant properties in a way that helps get rid of the blight. And we had all this vacant land in the middle of the neighborhood. We said, how about create something where the children could play? So we built Ella Fitzgerald Park, and where a bunch of abandoned houses were in the center of the neighborhood, that's the park where children are playing today. That's my vision for what we do with these blight bonds, is we move across this city from one neighborhood to another and let the neighbors drive a vision. But the houses aren't going to knock themselves down. They're not going to renovate themselves. We need some help. So I wanted to put this on the ballot in March and keep going. Now, you might have read in the paper, we've had some problems with the demolition program, right? And we've been going really fast. Nobody's ever tried to do it this fast. We made a bunch of mistakes. But if you live next to one of these vacant houses and you went to sleep at night thinking the house next door might catch fire and spread to your house, you wanted us to go fast. But we are in the process of retooling the whole thing, putting a new team in place. I wanted to put the issue on the ballot in March and fix it as we went. Most of city council said, whoa, wait a minute. How about you stop for a minute, fix the process, and then go to sell the bonds? Two reasonable positions. I could not convince a majority of council. And so we had two options. Did we go on the ballot in March when the presidential primary is in November? And I said, if we go on in March, we can do 4,000 or 5,000 this year. If we go on in November, we can only do half of that. If we go in March, we can renovate 1,000 to 1,500 houses this year. If we wait, we can only do half of that. And so I wanted to go now. The difference is that if we went in March, we'd have to transfer the demolitions to the new city team while we were still ongoing. We wouldn't take a pause. If we stopped and waited until November, we could take a pause, put a whole new team in place, switch it over, and then start up again. That was the debate we were having. Under my plan, we could have gotten all the houses done by the end of 2025. If we wait a year, it's the end of 2026. And so a majority of council said, we want to pause, we want you to fix the process, and we're tired about reading all these stories in the paper about demolition. And so I said, you know what, council had a reasonable position. And so I'm sitting down with individual council members now. I'm hoping that we're going to come back early next year, and there will be an issue on the ballot in November so that we can get through this city and rebuild these neighborhoods. And of course, in District 6, you remember when this was an international symbol of our decline, and now all across the world, they're looking at the train station where 5,000 jobs are going. And so we set up a program to make sure Detroiters get these jobs called Detroit at Work. And every job people are hiring for are now going through Detroit's employment agency. And so I had this idea that we could convince Fiat Chrysler to build the assembly plant in the city of Detroit. No assembly plant has been built in North America in the last 10 years north of the Mason-Dixon line. They've gone to Huntsville, Alabama, they've gone to Greensboro, South Carolina, they've gone to Nashville, Tennessee. They don't want to be up here. And usually they build on 600 acres of farmland. I went and pitched FCA and said, we can close St. Jean Street. We can buy a bunch of land, and you can build it here. And we will recruit from our Detroit at Work centers and get you people to work from all over the city. We bought the property, and we made one deal. The deal that I made with FCA was, I'll get you your land. I want Detroiters to get first shot at the jobs. And FCA said, how would that work? And I said, here's how it'll work. We will hold fairs across this city. We will find you qualified folks. You have to be 18 years old. You have to have a high school degree or a GED degree. You've got to be on your feet all day. You've got to pass a math and reasoning test. When I got to that part, the folks said, wait, math and reasoning? I wasn't that great at math when I was in high school. You want me to pass a math and reasoning test? So we gave everybody who came through, we held these 200 fairs, we gave everybody a sample test on the spot. And the people who didn't do well, we held tutoring classes, nights and weekends in churches. Hundreds of people showed up at these tutoring classes. And we went from place to place. FCA is interviewing right now for the first 2,000 jobs. 3,500 Detroiters have passed everything, including the math test, and are now being interviewed. Detroiters can do this work, and we're going to put Detroiters in these positions. So that's what we're trying to do here. That's the kind of city we're trying to build. And with that, what we're going to do now is take your questions. So if you haven't been at one of these before, we've got a microphone on each side. We ask that you line up, ask your question, hopefully relatively succinctly so your neighbors can get to their questions as well on whatever subject you want, and I'll stay here and answer all of them. So if you'd start by telling me your name and where you live and what your question is. And who's first? Good evening.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. It's me, Jennifer Williams again. You know, me and you best friends.
You have an amazing story.
I do. How have you been?
Good. I'm glad
God
to see you
bless you.
smiling this holiday season.
It is. Thank you for also everyone that was able to come out. Me and the mayor have been a round or two. Just would like to tell you he did a walkthrough with me maybe a little about December or June. I am a property owner. I am also a resident of District 6. As a matter of fact, I found out that you were here today because I was at one of the rental properties across the street. Just would like to share this with you guys. I bought homes from the land bank 5 years ago. I tried to do rental property with it. In the sense that I was trying to be a landowner and give back to my community, 11-year-old took an AK, give it to a 15-year-old, shot and killed my 15-year-old grandson. That was 4 years ago. So every day, I'm still fighting the war because I've been on your 2020 townhouses. Detroit is the best. I can stand here. I do belong here. Just to let you know, I tried to do the city compliances with my properties. They called violations. My tenants wouldn't let me get in to do my violations. As we speak, I had to do 2 evictions. That one of the houses is right around the corner from here, which is right on 28th. Thank you, we've gotten 2 houses tore down in the last couple of weeks over there. I see that across the street from the church we've had, so it's been a lot of activity going on in the last month or so. But what brought me here tonight is I didn't know what to do with these properties. I've spent all my earnest cash putting them back together. I could not get reparable tenants in my home. In order to comply them, I had to evict them. It took 3 months of eviction to get them out of my house. So for 3 months, I have 2 houses with no rent in it. I have spent $7,000 across the street updating it, new kitchen, new bath, new toilet, new everything. I've tried to withhold my city up, but I'm not winning at this cause again. And as you know, Mr. Mayor, you traveled with me and saw that I am not a slum landlord. Right. I happen to be a resident of Detroit. So I am one of your finest. I do believe in what you're doing, and I definitely have your back. But just to let you know, I can no longer be a landlord or try to help the people in my community because they won't allow me to. They tear them up, they vandalize them, they rip them, tear up the toilets, everything. So what I have just did, I ventured off with a group of 7 people, and what I'm trying to do is open up my rental properties. I'm not going to try to do a landlord anymore, but what we're trying to do is we're collaborating together to see if we can take foster kids that's leveling out of foster care between the ages of 17 and 21 that has nowhere to be. So I've met 11 people that are homeless with nowhere to go. And we just left around the house. I'm trying to put 2 tenants in there as we speak. So I don't know if that's Pierre's best and back again, Mr. Mayor, but I just wanted to let you know I talked to the office this morning, and I left a message with because I can't get street lights over there. And the kids that came to see the house, they're scared to come in there because it's so dark.
So let me start. We're gonna support you, and we are, as you know, enforcing codes on landlords, but we're also trying to give time for landlords to fix them up because we want those like you who are trying to succeed. What street are you on that you don't have street lights?
I am right next door. I'm on 28th, right across from where we are sitting at as you speak now.
Is the light there and it's not working, or?
The lights are not working.
Where is Bo here?
Let me see if Jamal's here.
Okay. Hakeem is going to take the address, and he is going to get the street lights on.
Okay, as well as what I was trying to say to you is with me being a single retired resident, colorectal survivor, I've poured all of my pension and Social Security into these houses and property. I have to go to court on the 7th to get all of my properties compliance. So I've been doing everything that you have required.
And are you working with our folks on an agreement period to give you time?
Well, I did work with Miss Elena at Building and Safety, so I've been for 3 months, I've been down there speaking with her.
Okay.
And what I'm just telling you is even with trying to comply and do what you are requiring me to do, there are so many obstacles and roadblocks.
I know, it's hard.
But I'm letting you know I still love you like that.
Well, I love you, but here's my lawyer, Lawrence Garcia. He's going to go and try to work something out with you so you have the time. And Dave, if we've got any kind of loan programs or anything, Ms. Williams is exactly the kind of person that we want to have our properties. And so we're going to support you. And thank you so much for coming out. God bless you. You have an amazing story. Yes.
Roger. Hi, my name is Megan Harris. I've been a resident of District 6 for over 12 years.
What neighborhood are you in?
I'm in this neighborhood now.
Right here, okay.
Yeah. So a question about the demolitions and just the environmental impact. We live in a city where lead levels are really high, especially for young kids, and I think it is really important. Growing up, and especially in this neighborhood, we have a lot of demolitions that do need to happen, but I get really concerned about the pace of demolitions and lead dust and things like that. So just wondering, have there been studies when we think about that level of demolition happening?
We did an extensive study. I don't know if Denise wants to talk about the details of it. The risk to the children is going into those vacant houses and eating the lead chips. It's crawling around on the floor and getting them. Getting the houses out is a good thing. The way we put the water on the houses, you are far less risk for the 15 or 20 minutes where the house comes down and we water it down than to have that house sitting there year after year. And the last study, which I don't know if they've released it yet, but it'll show that the lead levels have gone down in the areas that we had demolitions because we've got those areas out. So we're very conscious of it. And there's a reason you've seen some of those numbers. As we've done the demolitions, the elevated lead levels of the children have gone down. We got to get into the real issue is mostly rental properties, or some owner properties where children are peeling those paint chips off those panes by the window. It affects these children's learning levels, and we got to get in there and get them. All right, but thank you for the question. Yes.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Merry Christmas.
Merry
I have a
Christmas.
question. Who's handling the demos? They're doing demolitions in my area, but
Okay, which area are you in?
I'm on Brighton, so I'm Joy Road,
Okay.
Chicago,
So
Livernois.
tell me what you're seeing.
Well, what I'm seeing is a mess.
Okay, so tell me about it.
Well, what they're doing is it's the mud issue. So they tore the house down on November 18th. They came back December 2nd and put the dirt, backfilled or
In the
whatever they
hole,
call
yeah,
it.
right.
But in the process, they tore up the grass that was on the berm. They tore up sidewalks for 4 different parcels. They came down the alley behind my house and tore that ground up that was nice and grass and leveled and everything.
So Brian Farkas, or somebody here from the demo team? We don't have a single person here from the demo team. Okay. Tyler, come on up. So let me start with this. If they broke the sidewalks, we'll fix the sidewalks. If they damage the grass, they're going to have to repair the grass. If they damage the alley, they're going to have to repair the alley. We have 6 inspectors who drive around and should be picking this up. And I want us to get out there tomorrow and find out, did our inspectors pick this up? Have they given out corrections orders? And so if you give Tyrone your address, he's going to follow up. All right, yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Reverend Dr. Ventura Sana. I'm the president of the Larchmont Community Association, not far from here, near Tyerman and Larchmont. I'm coming tonight on behalf of Mr. Victor Abram of Vic's Market on Tyerman. He is very desperately in need of renovation for his store. Our area is practically a food desert. There are plenty of fast food places around for people to eat, but that store needs to be fixed up. He needs help. We need produce, fresh vegetables, and fruits for all of the residents, as well as just general repair. And he is letting us know, Larchmont Community Association, that if he's not able to get any kind of help, he'll have to close the market, and we really hate to see that market go in our community.
Yeah, so we have to be honest about what government can do and what government can't do. And subsidizing private business is not something that we can do except in limited ways. We have a program called Motor City Restore, where there is money that will match him 50-50 to do work on the exterior and the storefront. But in your kind of situation, I'd be willing to bet you there's a bunch of your neighbors who are driving somewhere else to get their groceries. And the single biggest thing you could help that particular store owner do is for the neighbors to come together and shop locally. Because if that store owner's got customers, they aren't going anywhere. So I don't know, where do most people in your area go?
Well, the thing is that there's not that much for us to shop for in the store.
Yeah.
I mean, there's beer and wine and, chips and that kind of thing and, a few shelf items. But again, we would hate to see that market close because there are many people in the neighborhood who don't have cars. They're walking to that market or, wherever they can get to. So
yeah, it's a tough problem. And I just say I would get the neighborhood group together, and are there some items that he could stock that you could buy? I think you're going to have to find a way collectively as a community. We can help him if he wants to do the facade, but if he isn't stocking things besides what a normal party store would stock, he's going to have a hard time attracting your neighbors, right? So I think probably the best thing would be to try to work together. We've got a business, where's Lily? Is she here? Okay, we got a business liaison. Our business liaison isn't here. Okay, she's here.
She's in the resource room.
Okay, she's in the resource room. So we'll introduce you to Lily, who's the business liaison for your area, and maybe can get with them and brainstorm some ideas.
okay, thank you.
All right.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm Kathy Green. You probably remember me. I've talked to you many times about the abandoned houses on Barton Street.
Right.
There's not much demolition going on south of West Warren and north of Tyerman, east of Livernois. We have properties that have been in the demolition pipeline since like 2001.
Right.
I looked at the 2020 demolition list. There's no house on Barton Street that is slated to come down.
Right.
My question is, what do we have to do to get these structures that are in various states of decay? Some of them are dangerous structures. How do we get out of the pipeline and into the actual demolition process?
So City Council had a 4-week debate on this issue. And the voices of people like you did not get to the council meetings. So at the moment, there's no money for demolitions other than an emergency. If it's about to fall over and there's a risk to the property or people, we will go in and do it. But there's no money until City Council votes to put the bond issue on the ballot. And so I would say what we need to do is you need to let your council representatives know that it's just not acceptable that year in and year out, you just have to live with these houses. And so I'm going to address council's concerns about the way the program's run, but if the voices in this community who want the blight gone don't go down to the council meeting, we're not going to have success.
We've spoken with Ms. Lopez, we've spoken with Ms. Torres. The bigger issue right now are these houses that are in such state of decay that the children cannot even play on the block. They're falling apart. No one will come out and even take those houses down.
And I'm telling
So
you-
how do we get these dangerous structures down?
I'm telling you, I fought day and night. I don't know if you saw it. I got beat up in the paper day after day for pushing this bond issue for exactly this reason. There weren't.
Emergency fund for us?
So if the house, so here's what happens. If you believe there's a house that is in danger of falling over, Dave Bell is here. Our BC department will go out and inspect it. We will take down probably 500 houses in the next year that are emergencies. They're in danger of falling over. We don't have the money to take down anything else. And so they'll go do the inspection. If it's about to fall over, we'll get it. If it's not, it's just standing there, you're going to help me go to council and say this isn't acceptable.
I don't know what else to say to Ms. Lopez. There's 17 of them on our block.
Yeah.
In one area, one half, it's not even an entire block, it's one block, 17 abandoned properties in different stages of decay, and most of them belongs to the land bank.
Right. And if the bond issue passes, we will get every single one of them. Okay, we will roll through here and take down 4,000 to 5,000 houses a year, and we will get every single one from every single neighborhood. That was my commitment. Part of our reality is that the folks who tend to live in the worst neighborhoods aren't necessarily the strongest at going to council and advocating. And so it's going to take advocacy. I don't know what else to tell you.
Well, when you don't have but 4 people on the block, there's not a lot of people to advocate.
And that's why I lost the vote. Okay, seriously. Okay, is I was fighting for the blocks that had 3 and 4 people left, and I lost. I'm still going to fight for the blocks that have 3 or 4 people. I'm fighting every day. I'm going to keep going until I get that bond issue on the ballot, so we get to your neighborhood. But I need folks in here, and if you're on a block, and there's a lot of neighborhoods in Southwest Detroit where the block's pretty stable, but if you don't care enough about your neighbors in other neighborhoods to come and advocate, we're going to be exactly where we are. The question is, who fights for those blocks that only have 3 or 4 people left? I'm fighting for them every single day. I'm going to fight for them until I get this bond issue through, because I believe you have the same right to live in a blight-free neighborhood as everybody else. I'm going to keep fighting, but I could use your help. All right, anybody else going to help?
Thank you.
All right. Yes.
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
My name is Angela English, and I do reside in the 48210 area within District 6. My question to you, this area seems to be less than 5 minutes away from LCA, from downtown Detroit, and my question is, what is the city of Detroit, what are their plans for residential as well as empowerment zone planning for the 48210 district? All the things that the city has done for what I would call the authentic areas of Southwest Detroit have been great. However, 48210 has been kind of lost in the shuffle of all of this.
Right.
So what would you say is the plan, or is there a plan?
I do. So were you here earlier in the presentation? Yes. Okay, so the plan is what I showed in the Fitzgerald area, that we go through areas like this, we get rid of the burned out houses, we save the ones we can save, we repurpose the open green space in ways that the community wants. That's what we have to do. And it's going to be a lot of work, and it's going to take some real money. But this is the next phase, because what you said is right. We got through half this city with the demolitions. We got through half this city with the renovations. I think we have an obligation to get to your neighborhood, which is what I'm pushing for right now. And I will say to you, I hope you will come out and advocate for this when we get to the next round of the blight bonds, because that's going to be, that $250 million is from the neighborhoods that have been forgotten. That's what it's for.
And I will say, I have seen some demolitions that have taken place within the 48210 area, mainly between Tireman, West Grand Boulevard, and where we are right now. So I have seen some demolitions that have taken place. But again, recognizing when you think about what you hear in the news in terms of empowerment zones and incentives that are given to areas like Livernois, 6 Mile, 7 Mile area, we are lost in the shuffle, and we're right near New Center. We're right 5 minutes away from downtown Detroit.
And the $250 million bond issue was your investment, okay? That $250 million is for the neighborhoods we haven't gotten to. That's your investment for your neighborhood, and I need the folks in those neighborhoods to stand up and say, we count too, and go to council. I don't know what else to tell you. I lobby day and night to get it done. I'm not stopping. I'm going to get this thing done one way or another, but it'd be a whole lot easier if folks like you came in and said to council what you're saying to me today.
So, I mean, and forgive me for this, but when are the council meetings? When do those take place?
So council will come back from break in January, and I would say you should, Ava will let you know if you give her your name. Council member Raquel Castaneda-Lopez hasn't been flat no. She's like, I want this fixed, I want that fixed. She hasn't been unreasonable. But we've got to get to a solution. We've got to stop talking. We've got to get to a solution. We've got to get the money. We've got to get to your neighborhood.
Okay.
All right.
And that's fair. So hopefully, in greater participation in the council meetings, we can start to see a little bit more change, more so than just when it's time for elections. And then you see all these flyers from council members and everyone else seeking to have votes from people that have never seen them before.
Right. I need your voice when we push this bond issue. Okay? Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Lee Burke. I live on West Grand Boulevard in the corner of McGraw, where the tree you said was lit up in a vacant lot. That really is not a vacant lot. That's the side of my house there. But the other side is vacant where the trees are,
But
okay?
hey, let me stop you there. How long have you owned the lot that has the tree on it?
Oh, for about 3 years now.
And how did you buy it?
Well, that's not the lot. I bought the house.
No, but
Where the tree is isn't a lot. That's the side of my house that was there all the time.
So you've owned that the whole time?
Yes.
Okay, that's too bad. But I love your decorations, even if it wasn't a side lot.
Okay.
I was going to take a picture for my State of the City speech, and I'm so glad you corrected me tonight before I did it on TV.
Okay, all right, no problem.
Okay, but it's beautiful what you've done.
Thank you.
What can I do to help you?
My concern is on the boulevard there, we
Yeah.
got a lot of empty spaces,
Right.
empty lots there.
Right.
From McGraw down to 96.
Right.
Okay, what are the city plan on doing with those empty lots? Because there's a lot of old buildings, old homes there, and to bring in a prefab home or something,
Right, we wouldn't
it
do that.
wouldn't look right for the boulevard.
Right.
Okay, and like I said, we're about 5 minutes from downtown, and I'm concerned about that. What are the plans for the future of the boulevard? Because up by Henry Ford, they're working, they're doing a lot of improvement,
Right.
but on our end, there hasn't been any improvement.
And Lee Plaza, that tall building next to Northwestern High
Yes.
School, I'm going to get that renovated and filled with affordable housing, which will help too. So here's what I would say.
Oh, wait a minute, let me say
Go
this
ahead.
too before you go into that one. There's a building right there at the end of the block where I live. It's been vacant for maybe 10, 15 years. The building seems to be in good
Is
structure.
it a house or a commercial
It's a
building?
building. No, it's
Okay,
a
commercial
building.
building. Okay.
Apartment building. It seems to be in good structure.
It's an apartment building that's empty?
Yes.
Okay.
And one of my main issues is the alley. My garage, I enter it from the alley.
Yeah.
The sewer is a big sewer drain system right there at the end of the alley.
Right.
It seemed to be just going under.
All right.
Okay?
Where's Gary
And the
Brown?
water is standing every time it rains. I got
Where's
standing
Gary?
water.
Gary snuck out. We're going to get Gary back in here. Gary Brown is going to fix that.
We got trees growing through the alley.
Okay. So you got two different questions. The alley itself is a different question.
Yes.
But the storm drains collapsing
Yes.
is our responsibility. And Gary Brown's walking in right now, and if you tell him where it is, he's going to get out and fix it. He's not going to do the trees.
Okay.
He's going to do the collapsing drain.
Okay, the collapsing drain, so the water don't stand every time
Exactly.
it rains.
That's Gary's job.
Okay.
He's the water guy.
Okay, thank you.
The trees, you need to talk to Eva about. That's more complicated, and we're going to have to do that together.
What are the plans now for the boulevard itself as far as the home structure?
Okay, so here's what I would say to you. There's no plans now, except that I'd like to see the side lots in the hands of neighbors to the extent they want them. What we've seen happening is that for most of this city, what it would cost to build a house You can't sell it for that when you're done. And that would be true on West Grand Boulevard today. What we're seeing now is in Woodbridge off of Grand River. They're now building the kind of houses you're looking at, and they're making money. In Corktown, they're doing that. If we keep doing what we're doing, it's going to come back on Grand Boulevard, and you're going to have houses built that are appropriate. We're not going to let them build some little prefab thing in the middle of those beautiful houses on Grand Boulevard, but we got to just keep going with what we're doing until people can pay enough for that house to make it worthwhile for somebody to build it. All right? But we're going to keep going.
Because I don't want to lose my home or move out of my home because a prefab
No prefab houses are coming. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
You're going to have, and you're going to, did you want the lot on the other side of you, did you say?
Big part?
Oh, I thought you said there was a lot on the other side of you.
No.
Okay. All right. Anyway, you get the Christmas Decoration of the Year award. Yes. All right.
Good evening,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Mayor. My name is Leslie Buffkin, and I reside at the address of 5357 31st Street. I'm also a member of the Warren Junction Community Council, and I've seen a lot of activity going on my block. First of all, I'm the only neighbor on the block. I have
So you're on 31st between what and what?
between Warren and Devereaux.
Okay.
And again, I'm the only neighbor on the block. Some are considered vacant homes, the other ones aren't. It's only 5 houses left on the block.
Right.
However, I have a lot of issues I can go through, and I'm going to probably have you address some of them
So
now.
tell me the most important one to you.
The most important one is that I'm trying to find out who it is that's doing this surveying around the land. Because we have been downtown, and we've got them to stop with the process of whatever they
What do
were
you
doing
mean
until they can
surveying?
identify themselves, because they haven't.
Okay, I'm not aware of surveying going on 31st Street.
Oh, lots of it, busy.
So what do they look like?
They look like little men in little white
No, but
trucks.
what does it look like they're doing? What does it look like they're doing?
Well, it looks like they're taking soil samples and, so.
I have no idea. Anybody have any idea why they would be over surveying on 31st Street?
And this is exactly what we're going through, is that nobody has any idea what's going
So, Eva,
on.
would you please put your detective services to work, and let's find out what's going on over there. So I'm not aware of any development plans over there, so let's find out
Well,
what
see,
they're doing.
the word is that it could possibly be some sort of factory subsidiary or someone that they're going to
In a
build some sort of factory, and even somebody
in a
came
residential
around.
neighborhood, that can't happen.
Well, see, that's what they're doing, is they're calling themselves coming in and rezoning the land.
Yeah, but
So
see,
if they,
rezoning doesn't do you any good if there are people who own houses there, because they can't take your houses. So I would be very surprised if that's what's going on. But let's find out. Is there any markings on the cars or the trucks they're driving?
no, I can't really say. It seems like it might be.
Eva,
It might be.
she's our detective for the 6th precinct. She's going to help you find
She's
this out.
talking about the Warren Junction
Community
rezoning.
council.
Oh, you're talking about
yes.
the industrial, you're not talking about the neighborhood
Yes,
side.
that's exactly right.
Oh, all right, now I'm with you.
So now
Okay.
what concerns me is that if they're going to drop a factory within the, just
Okay.
go around me and put a factory around me or some with the other.
I'm gonna
and
try-
I've been here 31 years, so I don't intend to
Okay.
possibly die of
So-
some sort of
So
fuming
I am
cancer.
going to try and put a factory there, not in your neighborhood, but it could be across the street. So let me tell you what's happening.
Across the street from my house?
So Eva, what's the boundaries that we're looking at in this Warren Junction property? We got a 30-acre site that goes up against the Thyssen Steel site. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we have a 30-acre site there, and we have a number of companies that could make auto parts either for the new Grand Cherokees at FCA or could make them for the new electric vehicles that GM's going to make at the Poletown plant. And they are looking for 30-acre sites around the city where we could put 300 or 400 people to work in good-paying jobs. And so if we get an agreement, and I don't have one yet, if we get an agreement with a parts company, we'll come talk to you about it at that point. And I know there's been some discussion about rezoning, but we're not going to do that until we can come say to you, here's what's going in, here's what the plan is. But that's who's been looking. They're trying to attract a parts plant for either
And
FCA or GM.
I'm all for progress, especially if it's going to make me, well, I can go and leave and go and buy somewhere else, you know.
Well,
But I just don't
they're not going to
wanna
buy you
live
out.
there.
At least nobody's talking about buying anybody out.
Well,
So nobody's trying to push you out.
what? I'll leave gladly.
Okay. All right. Well, let me say this to you. If I don't have a deal yet, if I get a deal for a site, so I don't know if you follow this, we just got Dakota that makes the dashboards for the Grand Cherokees, and they're building next to the old abandoned Kettering High School.
Okay.
I'm talking, General Motors is going to put $3 billion into the Poletown plant. Remember how they said they were going to close it? We got them to change that. The UAW was great at this. They're going to make the SUVs and the electric trucks of the future for the next 40 or 50 years out of Poletown. You have a whole different group of suppliers that create an electric engine versus an internal combustion engine. Those suppliers could be out in Farmington or Plymouth, or those jobs could be in Detroit. And so I am trying to get 30-acre sites in Detroit, and the site you're talking about is one of the few 30-acre sites we have. If I get an agreement, we will come out and show you the whole thing. If I don't get an agreement, we're not going to do anything with the property. So I think they're overlooking trying to measure how much room do we have, but I'm not aware, unless Evie is, of anybody talking about buying anybody's houses. That's not what we've been talking about doing.
No, that's not what I had. That's moving forward.
That's your dream. I got it.
Yeah, that's what's
right.
within me. Secondly,
Okay.
my mom, she stays on Tireman, well, she stays off of Tireman on Beechwood between Moore and, Cobb and Moore.
Okay.
Or Cobb and Milford. And they came and they pulled up the street lights from around right there. She owns, matter of fact, she owns the house. It's between Moore and Milford, and it's on the left-hand side, and there's like 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 lots that sits next to her.
Why did they pull up the streetlights?
Well, when they pulled them up, what happened was it made her surrounding whole area completely black.
Okay, so we'll look at the block, but the block should have one light in each corner and one in the middle of the block. So if it has that, that's the right amount.
What about the alley? Is there
The
anything you
alleys,
can do
the
about
alleys
the
are
alley?
private property in this city. So DTE will do an alley light for how much a month? $7 or $8 a month? What is it? $11 a month. So alleys are private property. They're not city property. And so,
How fair do you really think that is, that if you pay property taxes, and shouldn't that be a part of your property taxes, that you have the right to
So
be
let me tell you about,
safe?
I'll tell you more about alleys than anybody wants to know, but you probably don't remember this, but when I was a kid, the garbage trucks came down the alleys.
And me too.
Okay, there's people here who remember that.
Yeah.
About 40 years or so ago, the city moved the garbage trucks out to the street, and they gave the property to the adjoining neighbors. So you own half of the alley behind you. In a lot of places in the city, they moved the fences back together. In other places, they just left them, and people assume the alleys aren't theirs. The alleys are your private property.
Oh, okay.
If you want to move your fence back, you can move your fence back. Now, if you're in one of those alleys where people have to come into their garage from the back, we got to work that out. But if you want to light the alley, we worked out a deal with DTE for $11 a month. They'll put up an alley light, and we got a lot of places where neighbors share the lights in the alley. So DTE's got a whole program for that.
Okay.
So we light the street, but the alley is private property.
I've got another concern.
Okay, so I don't want you to leave. I want to bounce. You can come back and ask more, but I want to make sure.
Just one last
okay,
thing.
go ahead.
There's a house that sits on Whitewood, and I think it's Moore. What's that next street? It might be Milford or Moore, but it sits right there. It's a structure that does like this. It has one wall, and that's it. And you talk about dangerous because there's a school right on the next block.
Okay.
So if there's anything that anybody can do to try to get that
So
down.
here's Dave Bell. He's responsible for the inspections. If the house is in danger of falling over, we will come out and get it.
Okay.
All right? So
Thank
you give
you.
Dave the address, and he will get out and check it tomorrow. All right? Those were all great questions. Thank you.
Yep. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm a representative of the Detroit Highwayman Motorcycle Club. We love calling Southwest Detroit our home in District 6. We work with Eva Torres, and We appreciate being welcome down here tonight. We see the improvements in District 6, Southwest Detroit, and we appreciate the city doing it. We're doing our part to try to beautify our area. We know behind our clubhouse down there, I can't remember the street names back there, but they're coming together, doing tear downs on the houses, and we're willing to help out the city in any way we can. We're
That's
working
great.
but we want to thank you. We want to thank Eva Torres and District 6 for the great work.
Well, you're the kind of partner that we need, so thank you for what you're doing. It's a whole lot easier to do stuff when we're working together. Go ahead.
Hello, Mayor Duggan. My name is Teddy. I'm not sure if I have any questions related to housing, but I just moved back here from Washington, D.C., working for the National Association of the Deaf. I was born and raised here in Detroit my whole life. I have my family here who are deaf. And one thing I'm concerned about is accessibility. I think you guys have great initiatives what's happening in the city, all the money coming in, and I'm concerned about the future for our children who have a disability like myself. And I'm struggling with finding a job because I can't have an interpreter who could be able to communicate for me, because those are important assets to communication for me. But those kind of things cost money. And a lot of times we adjust with situations for our assets. Number one thing they always say, we don't have the funds for it. We don't have the budget for it. I would hope one day to have someone who can be able to say, what can we do about this? How can we figure out a way to solve this problem? Especially with housing. We have people who have issues with getting access to wheelchair and ramp, getting into old vacant buildings be rehabbed, but there's no thoughts of accessibility for those people. You know, a lot of questions I have, especially when it comes to employment, are they working with community organizations to making sure that they're providing opportunity for people who have disabilities to have employment. Right now, we have too many people on Social Security benefits because opportunity not to find employment. So we could reduce that number and give people opportunity to find gainful employment by working with businesses who have incentives that funding to provide those opportunities. And me being back here in Detroit has really inspired me to do something about it, because I can't see my 3 deaf nephews growing up in Detroit public school and not getting appropriate access to communication and education like I did. And think about living in Washington, D.C. to have full access to communication, the community there. And it doesn't make sense, you know, and I want to see what the city is going to do about it. What can we do about it to help our children, our future, who have disabilities to have full access to everyday life? Go to movie theaters to have open captions. Maybe go to a restaurant and sit and order food to have people understand their disabilities. There's so much. No, I'm just sitting here and thinking great, but what about ADA? What about accessibility for people with disabilities, like myself who are deaf?
So let's take 2 different pieces. First, Charity Dean, who runs our Civil Rights Office, is opening a new division for the disabled, and will be running a significant program out of that to deal with the overall access issues. On the job side, Detroit at Work is working on that today. What kind of work do you want to do? What's your profession?
I'm a filmmaker. I have my own business doing media production. I work with Detroit Public Schools. Working with Detroit School Arts has a great program, and a lot of our deaf and hard students are mainstreaming that program, and they feel not supported because they don't feel that there's opportunity outside of high school in that field. So what kind of opportunities are we giving them? And by me working with these students, I give them an opportunity to say, yo, this is opportunity for you, because I'm a filmmaker and I work for Detroit Disability Power as the communication manager. I'm responsible for all internal and external communication because I have a filmmaking degree background. We want to be able to give our children opportunity to see that they have a future in creative art too, not just in math and science.
Okay, so I'm going to hook you up with Adrian Tanone right now, who is the head of our whole creative economy site. And we're going to also set up a time for you to sit with Charity Dean, who's running the disabilities program. But Adrian is our liaison to everything film and creative related. And I think you'll find he will be a great partner to pursue this with. But you're inspirational just listening to you. And we're going to help you succeed, and we want everybody like you to succeed. All right? All right. Thank you.
Good evening. My
Good
name
evening.
is Gaynella Green. I'm the president of the United Block Club Council in District 6, and we're bounded by Epworth, Tireman, West Grand Boulevard, and Warren, and back to Epworth. I want to just say thank you for coming out, sharing your time, all of your staff, police officers. Thank you, guys. A lot of people, and I need to say this, have a misconception about what some of the clubs do. I know several that are always around giving out services. We just had one to have a breakfast with Santa, and I think it's just wonderful that they're giving back into the community. So let's not push them away and refuse their help.
All right. All right. You're fabulous.
The couple of things I just need to ask. Why can't we get a major market or store in this area?
So I'm just going to be honest with you, we don't tell private business where to go. And so where does business go? They go to areas where people are moving in, not where people are moving out. And that's why these renovation programs are so important. You're saying we've had 13 new businesses open on Livernois this year. We've had 8 new businesses open on East Warren this year. We have neighborhoods where people are moving in and the businesses are moving in. We got to do 2 things together. One is we've got to renovate the houses we can renovate the vacant apartment buildings we can renovate to build some density. And then we got to use Motor City Match in some of our programs to match the empty storefronts to what we need. And those are things we got to work on together. And some neighborhoods are coming back really fast with their storefronts, and others are falling behind. And we just have to work together until we get your storefronts filled in.
I don't know how many people are familiar with this area and how beautiful it was back in the 50s, 60s. You had up on Milford here, when I know you've all come through there were nothing but stores, restaurants, barbershops, TV shops. You had Tireman, you had Ari's Bakery, you had Bluebird, which was, well, nationwide, known nationwide, and Vic's, who's been there for over 50 years, because I've been over here off and on for about 50 years. Yeah. So I'm looking at we're accessible by all the freeways. If you come downtown, you can go straight across to the Boulevard and get to Henry Ford. You can go down to the Grand River and get to the casinos if you go.
Right. You've got so much potential
There's
here.
so much stuff over here that can be done. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that later. My other question is...
Let me just stop you there, though. If you're watching what we're doing on West Grand Boulevard, we're being very intentional. So you've now seen Henry Ford's building that cancer center and building that out. Motown Museum is expanding. I am going to fill up that Lee Plaza Tower. We're moving all the way down West Grand Boulevard to strengthen it, and we're going to end up down here, and it's going to spin off. We're going to keep going. We got to figure out where is the closest place to you where there's some density that we could try to get some businesses to move in. That's something we got to figure out together.
I love what you're doing. Come on down to Tireman. We need you.
I know. I'm trying.
We
all right.
need you.
I know.
Over here. Okay,
I'm not going to stop till I get there.
Thank you. The last question I have is that you talk about affordable housing, but I'm hearing that HUD is getting out of the subsidizing housing business as of the end of next year.
They haven't yet.
Well, I'm just saying what I'm hearing. Yeah. And what I'm wondering is that for the people who are on Section 8 or in these apartment complexes, that if they get out of the business, where are the folks going to go and how can we help?
So whether they get out of the business will depend on the election in November 2020. And we need to be awake and we need to go to the polls. Right.
Anything that we can do within our area,
You
let us know.
Organize, and get out and vote November 2020.
Well, we
They-
preach that to the highest.
Right.
We're always talking about voting.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I don't want any of our seniors and other people to be displaced because I'm hearing private investors, if they come out, private investors are buying this property and then they can set their rents.
Yeah, so far, so let me start with HUD. So far, they haven't gotten out. Debbie Stabenow and the Democrats in Congress have stopped them from getting out. It's been okay, but it's been a battle every year. So there have been proposals to get out. They haven't done it. And so far, in the 5 years that I've been here, every single apartment building that had HUD credits on it, we've renewed for another 30 years. So nobody's been pushed out when the credits expired. But it is a battle every single building, every single week. Because as you know, the market is such that those rents go higher. There's more and more people who want to, move to a higher level of income, and we got to push back. And Arthur Jemison, who's here, has done a great job so far. But we got to keep working, and we got to get out and vote. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. I'm Corey Saline. I'm the treasurer for the Auburn Street Alliance Block Club. We're actually in Warrendale, District 7. We were invited by Eva Torres. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, come across the border.
It's been a while. We actually spoke with you about 3 years ago. We
Yes.
moved here from Miami.
Yeah.
And we're still here, so we're still trying to fight.
I'm glad to hear Warrendale's done better in 3 years.
Yeah. Well, my approach to you today is about safety concerns. I wanted to start off with some names. Paris Cameron, Timothy Blanchard, and Alonte Davis. There's 2 gay men and a black transgender woman that were shot and killed by an anti-LGBT person. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because we have a neighbor across the street.
Individuals over in Morningside?
What happened?
Was that the one on the east side?
This was, I believe, yes.
Yeah, over
on
in
the east side,
Morningside.
yeah.
I remember. I'm familiar with the case.
The reason why I'm bringing that up is because I'm an LGBT person. I'm a gay person, whoever doesn't know what LGBT is. So is he, and I have another family member that also is gay, that lives in the household. Across the street, we have a homophobic, racist male that harasses us on a daily basis. Last year, we actually had an incident where he recorded and posted a picture of our house on his Facebook, on social media, telling everybody to go kill the, excuse my French, but.
Does our police department know this?
It's been reported.
It's been reported.
Okay.
We have reports here.
Because Chief Craig usually is all over these kinds of issues.
Right. I mean, the thing is that we've reported, and we've reported numerous amounts of incidents that we've had with them. And the latest one, we were trying to file for a PPO.
Are you in the 6th precinct? Which precinct are you in?
7th.
7th precinct? No, you're not. No.
We're in District 7.
Yeah, you're in the 6th precinct.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have any excuse for that, because normally our police department's enormously responsive. We don't put up with that nonsense for a second. Okay, so Deputy Chief Fitzgerald, Deputy Chief, come on, let's talk about this, because we've made a concerted effort to enforce the law against anybody who is harassing anybody from the LGBT community.
Well, we have spoken to the mayor, and I do want to go ahead and finish the statement here, because we've actually had the neighborhood police officer go knock on their door and just give a warning, hey, don't mess with your neighbor. But incidents keeps happening. We've reported them every single time, and we just got that one person that went there that one time.
We're also dealing with a situation. This street is, I use the word infested because that's what it is, in my opinion, by opioid addiction. This is a heroin user. This is someone who has a record. He posts semi-automatic weapons on his Facebook. He posts hate towards different races on his Facebook. These are the type of things that happen before the shooting we mentioned happens. It builds to this. We can't sit on our porch and have coffee without getting their 12-year-old children calling us they come up to us within breathing distance, and we have to have this patience inside of us, because this is a mother with a child screaming at men, and we realize what we look like. I'm a bearded man. I don't want to be the aggressor. I know what it feels like. I was taught by my parents, I am brown, I am Latino. I'm taught not to be the aggressor. This is a white family. They're coming at us. Yes, they're screaming at us. They're being the aggressor. But at the end of the day, if I use words and I tell them to, and I tell them use the same words they're using against me, I will be the aggressor against a 12-year-old child. we're having a situation where this is a daily basis. We cannot go outside without fearing that he's gonna come up into our driveway, use our berm to park there to incite us just coming out and using again. Hey, I'm sorry for the language, but this is what we deal with on a daily basis. These are children that are being taught hateful words because we have a Lebanese in the house, because we have a Latino in the house, because we're brown, because we're LGBTQI. And we don't want to be another number added to this list of 23 people who have died in the United States just because they're LGBTQ.
So we're going to get on this. I'm disappointed that we haven't been more effective. We are not going to put up with this at all. So I want to do two things. We have Deputy Chief Fitzgerald, who is going to elevate the police department support. But Lawrence Garcia, the city lawyer, I want him also to talk to you. I want to see if we can't get some kind of court order on the civil side so that you're protected.
We tried to file for a PPO and we were denied.
You were denied the PPO.
Unfortunately, it said that there was insufficient of immediate harm to our family.
Okay, so Lawrence, I'd like.
I'm thinking of a better lawyer than whoever failed to. Thank you.
Okay, we go take care of them. All right, and Lawrence, will you get their number? Because I want to come out and visit you. In fact, what I really would like to do is after the first of the year, how about I come visit you at your house? Brad? Okay, but I want to deliver a message that you are absolutely welcomed and embraced by this community, and I'd love if you'll have me to come out to your house and visit you.
Anytime.
All right? Okay. Good. All right. Go ahead. Hey.
Oh, you're on it.
Go ahead.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie Wash from NABWIC, the National Association of Black Women in Construction. I live in this district, District 6, off of Joy Road in Livernois, and I've been trying to activate it. And one of the things that I'm seeing, and you brought it up, is that we don't come to a lot of the meetings, the public meetings. And one of the things is that residents don't have necessarily the access, or anyone is not bringing the information to them. Canvassing, coming into the neighborhood, putting your foot out here on the soil and actually meeting up with us is what's key. And then also me trying to navigate and start a CDC, which is a community development corporation in my neighborhood, to bring the resources directly to us, because we aren't Southwest, even though we're considered Southwest 24/7. Calling BC for blight and nothing's being taken care of. Auto vehicle shops are still open when they're violating and not being in compliance for years. I think the key to what I'm asking is, where's the accountability? And also just the people who set this up as well. I don't know the name of this, the people who got the RFP for this, but they did a terrible job letting the community know about this. Like the lady said, she only found out because she stopped over at someone's house. No one knew about it.
So we take the different pieces together. We've been all over social media, we've been all over cable TV, we've been in public notices on these meetings, et cetera. But as far as the issues, I have a checklist of every used car lot, car repair lot, car storage lot in this city. We've shut down 30 or 40 this year. I did a moratorium a year ago, so no new ones could get approved. I just signed that moratorium for another year because way too much of the acreage in this city is being used on this. And Dave Bell and his team, if you saw the number of tickets that we wrote, and we're continuing to write, so we are providing absolute accountability on these car repair and storage lots. If you've got a particular property that you want dealt with, Dave can tell you exactly where the enforcement stands.
Absolutely, because the guy, we just had a meeting today, and the guy off of Brighton, he's been in violation almost for probably over like 4 years, and he still has his license. So he's, he was using
So if you're out of time, I could look right now on my spreadsheet and see, but Dave was the one creating the spreadsheet. We can tell you exactly where the enforcement is on that individual.
Absolutely, because he just was trying to expand on a property that he didn't own, and he was actually having vehicles on it and was utilizing it.
So do you know your district managers?
Yes, I know my district managers, but what I'm telling you is that the residents need to know the information, not just social media, because everyone does not have access to it. So you guys need to really come out here and really step out here and let us know. We can only do so much. Or if you guys want us to work for you guys, hire us. Teach these people the RFPs. allow these organizations, these nonprofits, these companies, these different organizations access to this resource so we can bring it and give the community what they need, instead of you guys constantly telling us what we want.
Okay, well, we're here to ask what you want. That's the point of the meeting. But in the meantime, Dave can give you the exact enforcement status on that a lot, and I think you'll be impressed with how thoroughly he's going at it.
So we'll take her back.
Okay, he'll win you over. All right, everybody have a great holiday. Oh, we got one. Last one. Go ahead.
I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Okay.
My name's Levita Brown. I'm the daughter of Ernest Brown, former councilman.
Great man.
Ran for mayor.
Right.
This is our home church. This church is over 100 years old. He was born in 1925. It's almost 2020. The family is still here. I'm on Allendale and Beechwood. We need your help over there.
All right. Okay, happy holidays, everybody.